A few summers ago, I was visiting family who had recently moved to the city of Beaufort, South Carolina. A city prior to them moving there, I had no earthly idea about. While there, I enjoyed the gothic look of the town, given by the abundance of weeping willow trees surrounding the area. We went to the downtown of the city, an area I saw a few months later on the Murdaugh Murders Netflix documentary, which was actually nuts. Anyways, while down there, I saw a placard that laid out the history of the city. One part of Beaufort's history that stood out to me the most was the fact that most of the local government was black citizens who had just recently been freed from slavery, thriving in this new era of post-Civil War, the time of Reconstruction. That was until something started to happen. Just like many cities in the South, there was a growth and abundance of white domestic terrorism that was incentivized and promoted during the Jim Crow era. Groups like the Ku Klux Klan formed during this time to kill any black people who tried to liberate themselves by starting businesses, running for local government, and overthrow those black Americans who were already in government, just like in the city of Beaufort, South Carolina. This is the type of history that gets erased and replaced with rhetoric that black people are poor and disenfranchised due to them just being lazy, when in fact we've been facing an uphill battle since we were dragged over here. But that is not what I'm going to be talking about in this video. I want to take a look at the often normalization and simplification of the occurrence of domestic white terrorism in the media. Groups like the KKK, who have been mainly characterized as just a bunch of country bumpkin rednecks, when in reality the members of these groups look more like this than this. Look at how the media, including comics, can minimize what these groups can look like, making them into outlandish caricatures. Until recently, with one mainstream comic that dropped which displayed the best portrayal of what white supremacy really looks like. First, let's take it back. Founded in 1865, the Ku Klux Klan extended into almost every southern state by 1870 and became a vehicle for white southern resistance to the Republican Party's Reconstruction era policies aimed at establishing political and economic equality for black Americans. Its members waged an underground campaign of intimidation and violence directed at white and black Republican leaders. Though Congress passed legislation designed to curb Klan terrorism, the organization saw its primary goal, the reestablishment of white supremacy, fulfilled through Democratic victories in state legislations across the South in the 1870s. The KKK is to most historians one of the first American terrorist groups. Even with all the evil the Klan was doing, this did not stop the production of the film Birth of a Nation. The Birth of a Nation is a 1915 American silent epic drama filmed, directed by D.W. Griffith and starring Leanne Geesh. The screenplay is an adaptation from Thomas Dickens Jr.'s 1905 novel and play The Klansman, a historical romance of the Ku Klux Klan, a film where we see black characters look like savage, over-sexualized beasts. Many of these characters were played by white men in blackface, opposed to the heroes of the film, the Ku Klux Klan. This movie did get some criticism at the time of its release and has continued to this day. Regardless of the movie's critiques, good or bad, The Birth of a Nation still shows the active flattening and reframing of this domestic white terrorist group. As time went on, the Klan and white supremacy moved away from being promoted as a good group and became demonized. Although I feel they were just turned into this extreme caricature. Many portrayals of white power hate groups like the Klan are often shown as country folk or inbred hillbillies. Movies like Django, which has that famous scene of the proto-Klan wearing bedsheets over their faces where they couldn't see out of. I understand scenes like this and the goofy caricature of Klan members are supposed to poke fun and show how stupid or ugly it is to be a Klan member, but I feel as though it takes away from the seriousness of what this group has done. Now, if we move from movies into comics, in the past we've gotten more or less the similar portrayals of white supremacist groups, mainly the KKK, in baseless, cartoony ways. Let's look at Spawn number 30, one of the most controversial issues in the Spawn run. In this issue, Al Simmons, aka Spawn, ends up in Alabama where he has been walking through the countryside for thousands of miles. Spawn ends up getting passed by a truck of Klan members going to burn down a black rancher's home. He introduces himself to the rancher named Armstrong in the middle of the ranch burning down and talks about his issues dealing with white people in his day-to-day life back when he was alive. A very bleak and general oversight, not much nuance to the conversation that only one Todd McFarlane could have written. Anyways, Spawn tried to hinder the Klan's plans by stopping one of their future attacks on the Armstrong ranch and ends up getting lynched. After that, Armstrong and his family get fucked over some more. The family tries to go to law, but the judge of the city is also a Klan member. Many of the Klan members in this comic are shown as very low-down redneck country folk who love drinking moonshine, collecting guns and trucks. A very typical depiction. In the end of the issue, nothing really significant happens to any of the members aside from a few of their personal belongings getting fucked with. The judge of the city, who is a Klan member, is the only one who gets any sort of harm done to him when he's gets his just due dude from Spawn by being turned into a black man and gets lynched by his fellow clan members, which is idiotic. So essentially, at the end of this comic, a black man gets killed by the clan and they get away. Black Panther is another character who has a fair share of run-ins with the Ku Klux Klan. In the mid-1970s, Black Panther had a storyline where he fought the Ku Klux Klan, written by Don McGregor, with art by Billy Graham, published in Jungle Action issues number 19 to 24. In this run, T'Challa travels to Georgia with his girlfriend, Monica Lynn, whose sister had been mysteriously killed. While investigating the death, the Black Panther uncovers a local white supremacist network, including members of the Ku Klux Klan and a shady extremist group manipulating racial tensions in the town. T'Challa faces lynching mobs, cross burnings, and ambushes from the Klan members. An unusual, raw depiction of American racism for a 1970s superhero comic. His story explores systematic racism, corruption, and social realities of America. It ends abruptly and unfinished. Marvel canceled the series before McGregor could complete the full arc. The planned follow-up would have delved even deeper into conspiracy and justice themes. Though this run got a bit wordy at times, it did a better job of portraying who and what the KKK actually is and how the impact of their actions in the comic were deeper than just physical violence, but also political and strategic. Sucks Marvel dropped the ball in this series. Some articles say it was canceled due to low sales, which isn't a new thing for Black Panther comics, but others say it was due to Marvel's editorial being scared of the subject matter in the story. I say it was a little bit of both. If we look across the way at the other big two comics publisher, DC Comics, there have also been comics they have produced that have had portrayals of the Klan in them. In the 1940s, Superman had a hit radio show titled The Adventures of Superman, starring Bud Coiler. This radio show ran from 1940 to 1951. In 1946, an episode titled The Clan of the Fiery Cross aired. This particular show was inspired by journalist Stenson Kennedy, who infiltrated the KKK and gave the show writers real information about the Klan's rituals and codes. In the story, Superman takes on a racist group called the Clan of the Fiery Cross, which targets a young Chinese American boy and his family after he joins a white-dominated baseball team. Superman exposes the Klan's hypocrisy and criminal behavior, rallying the community to reject hate. The broadcast was a huge success, and in real life, it humiliated and weakened the Klan since their secrets were mocked and revealed nationwide on a popular children's program. A few decades later, in 2019, a Superman series came out called Superman Smashes the Klan, which was based off of this same radio show. Though these comics have their positives with at least showing the Klan and how those types of ideologies are bad, many times there are flaws given within these comics. One big issue being the simplification of racism. This isn't just a problem in comics, this is a problem with society as a whole, where racism is shown as this binary, that the metric to see if someone is racist is if they simply say nigga or not, specifically nigga with the hard R, when racism isn't just calling people derogatory terms. In a lot of these comics, they compare the Klan to some sort of devil worshiper cult or an entity of that nature. Yes, being a Klan member is definitely an extreme version of racism, but only showing that you have to be this extreme to be racist really belittles and oversimplifies what racism as a structure really is. This can make racism seem like a few bad guys rather than a deeply rooted social structure. For example, Superman or Black Panther might defeat the Klan in a physical fight, which symbolically feels satisfying but doesn't reflect how racism actually operates or how hard it is to dismantle it. A lot of times the hero, beats up the bad guy, aka the Klan, and saves the lowly minority. So now they're free to live their lives as an average American, right? Right? No, that literally is not what happens. These comics, again, only explain why it's wrong to be racist or be a white supremacist, but never addresses the structures or reasons why these people have gotten this way or why they've been able to continually function throughout time with these mindsets. Nor do we rarely get stories of the effects of how these structures have hurt those that it attacks. Recently, there have been a few comics that have came out that have gotten it right. Let's talk about one of my favorite comic series, Bitterroot. Bitterroot is a supernatural, action-packed family saga that turns racism and racists into literal monsters. It follows the Sangare family's quest to heal a world infected by hate. It mixes history, fantasy, steampunk, and social commentary into one of the most original and important comics of the last decade. I talked more in depth about this series in my Black Superhero Paradox video, but I want to focus on one specific issue of the series, the Red Summer one-shot. This particular issue is an anthology where we get a more in-depth look and background on some of the series characters in the backdrop of the life like Red Summer of 1990. 1919, a period where racial violence erupts across the United States, including riots and lynchings in dozens of cities like Chicago, Washington, D.C., Elaine, Arkansas, etc., etc. White mobs attacked black communities, often sparked by resentment of black veterans returning from war or fears of economic competition. In Bitterroot, these real-life outbreaks of hate are depicted as manifestations of the Genoon plague, literal demonic outbreaks of hatred infecting people. When the comic opens, the Sanctuary family is still reeling from the Red Summer, which they understand not just as a social unrest, but as a supernatural catastrophe of hate spreading through America. This issue not only does a great job of showing how each character in Sanctuary family came to be who they are at the moment we meet them at the beginning of this series and throughout the main timeline of the comic, but also ties it into real-world events of white domestic terrorism. It shows things like the Tulsa, Oklahoma massacre, a historical event that would be banned to tell in ass-backward states like Florida. This comic also shows the effects of people having to deal with this abhorred hatred and violence towards them. Some of the characters want to kill these monsters, while other parts of the family believe it's best to heal these monsters. The creators of this comic describe it as a Malcolm X versus Martin Luther King mentality conflict within these characters' dynamic. Bitterroot is a fantastic comic. I couldn't recommend it enough. Another comic that has came out a few weeks ago at time of recording that actually inspired this whole video and also hits the topic at hand in such a profound and real way is the Absolute Batman Annual #1, mainly the Daniel Warren Johnson story. Sorry, James Herron, love the energy you gave, but Daniel Warren Johnson killed this comic. Absolute Batman has been the talk of the comic book industry since it came out, gaining tons of hype since the first look of Absolute Batman was posted online. I made a whole video covering how Absolute Batman has been and remains so successful. Go check that out. Now it's been a year since the first issue dropped and the series has been rolling ever since. So DC decided to put out an annual for Absolute Batman. In this 48-page comic, we get 3 different stories from Meredith McClare, James Herron, and Daniel Warren Johnson, the GOAT. Even before the comic dropped, there was a lot of controversy leading up to its release date. Funny enough, Absolute Batman always has some sort of conversation and controversy damn near each issue that's came out, whether good or bad. The controversy leading up to this annual was this: a drawing of Batman choking out an ICE agent. A one-off drawing that was sold at the Daniel Warren Johnson table at New York Comic Con 2025 that Daniel Warren Johnson posted online. Most people liked it or felt indifferent about the drawing. The usual suspects got online and cried about it. The only real argument about this drawing I'm willing to hear is how DC Comics fired and canceled Gretchen Felco Martin's Red Hood comic for their crude joke Blue Sky post about the shooting of the King Master Debater. DC stated, "Post or public comments that can be viewed as promoting hostility or violence are inconsistent with DC's standards of conduct." Though DC Comics are full of characters beating or getting the shit beat out of them. But DC Comics didn't dare cancel the Absolute Batman annual comic, nor make a statement about the violence with the DWJ sketch post that went viral. There are many different arguments to be had on why DC fired Flecker Martin and not Daniel Warren Johnson, but I'm sure the main reason was DC didn't want to lose any bread off of this annual that they knew was going to be a bestseller. Furthermore, all that preemptive hype surrounding this comic wasn't for nothing, because this comic fucking ruled. Daniel Warren Johnson straight up outdid himself with this comic. This one shot follows Bruce as he rolls into a small town of Slaughter Swamp to buy some non-lethal or less lethal weapons. While Bruce is there, he confronts a white supremacist group that has been taking over the city. Batman takes him out in a high-octane, ultra-aggressive way, straight up whooping feet. Daniel Warren Johnson, as always, delivers with his flashy artwork and dynamic style. Amazing fight scenes, breathtaking splash pages, and dope page-turning pacing in this comic. Although all of these fantastic scenes were enough for me to enjoy the comic, it was the story and the themes laid out in this one-shot that, for me, puts Absolute Batman Annual #1 in the Comic of the Year conversation. See, Daniel Warren Johnson in this comic is really giving a grounded look at what white supremacists look like, especially in modern day. He also alludes to factors that can lead people into leading towards these extremist ideologies. In this comic, we get 3 main characters: Batman, Thomas Wayne, Bruce's dead father, who shows up in flashbacks, and then we have Father Peters. In the comic, Father Peters plays the role of a passive world builder and also a counter to Bruce's forceful approach to handling the white supremacists. Bruce first encounters these white supremacists outside the weapons shop as they are terrorizing 2 immigrants, a mom and her young son, who moved into Slaughter Swamp by the promises of a job from a mega corporation that ended up and left abruptly, screwing over tons of local and immigrant workers out of jobs. Bruce tries to defend these people by fighting these goons, only to be blindsided by the store owner of the weapon shop, showing that this white domestic terrorist group runs deep in this town. Bruce is only saved by Father Peters, who protects Bruce from getting stomped out. Father Peters takes Bruce to his home and patches him up, stating that it'd be faster to help him at his house because the nearest hospital is an hour away. While at the house of Father Peters, he explains that this group has been taking over their town because the leader has been able to fill the holes in the hearts of the young and older men of the town, giving these people a dark place to go to. Something that has been really echoed this past decade, a big reason why the government and politics here in America are the way that it is now. Why so many young men, especially white men, lean right and even more towards alt-right spaces because they feel seen and heard. Spaces that give justification to their bigotry, not accountability. It is not your fault that you're racist or you're not as successful as you're supposed to be. It is this group's fault for holding you back, taking your jobs, etc., etc. After this, we kind of get a glimpse of what Daniel Warren Johnson's seemingly true feelings bleed into this comic. Feelings that many people in America are having right now, that we wish we could just go and beat the shit out of these types of people. Hopefully this will solve everything, but it doesn't. Thomas Wayne plays a key role in cementing this idea in the comic. During a flashback, Thomas is talking to Bruce about what can be done about these extremist violent groups after reading about a bombing that has been taking place. Thomas expresses he's not sure what can be done in the grand scheme of things, that all he knows is on a personal level, he can help by doing what he does best, which is teaching. Wayne says that he can hopefully lead his students in the right direction by having a positive impact on their lives. This conversation looms over Bruce even during and after he's done beating the brakes off these white supremacist groups, feeling as though his methods, the violent ways he's pushed towards, may not be the right path, or even the path of his non-violent father, or even the path his non-violent father would take, feeling as though his father may feel ashamed of the path that Bruce has taken. Father Peters even shows that the violent actions may not be the best course to take. Father Peters protecting not only Bruce from getting beat down by this white supremacist group, but also protects the people of the same group from being crushed by Batman. To Father Peters, no matter what, all people deserve protection. By the end of the comic, Bruce isn't really sure how to feel about his actions or what he can do to help these types of situations. I think that the biggest takeaway from this comic is that the times we live in are complicated and filled with tons of high emotion. Daniel Warren Johnson does a great job of laying out and giving context to this group, not making them some too outlandish or a caricature of what white supremacists look like. Shit, this group is a little too on the nose for some idiot who say that these are just regular people getting beat up for their ideas by Batman. The fact that this town is filled with jobless people, that the white population of this town blames the migrant workers instead of the corporation that came into the town and took what it could from them and dipped, these are the things that really happen, all cause and effect. Look at cities like Detroit or San Francisco or any other city that was once a factory town that has nothing anymore due to corporate outsourcing. Daniel Warren Johnson did a great job with this story. Comic of the year. In the end, if you're going to create a comic or a piece of media that deals with this subject matter, you should do your due diligence on showing what these types of groups or ideologies actually look like and not show them or minimalize them to the most extreme versions, giving them this perception as some outlier in this kind of thought, when white supremacy and racism is way grander than just few specific words or extreme violent action towards a certain group of people. Hell, I'd argue that white supremacy affects more than just the people of color, but also those who are supposed to be protected by it. White people, tricking you into feeling that all your mishaps or problems in your life are from black, brown, or gay people, when really it's the rich that are stealing from you and tricking you right under your noses, leaving you, white America, in this negative feedback loop here with us, the ones you look down upon, calling everyone else a victim when you yourselves are the biggest victims and are all getting gaslit into thinking that you're not.
I appreciate you guys for watching this video to the end. My final thoughts on this comic essentially is that I found it to be a really bold move for Daniel Warren Johnson, to kind of talk about these things in a very mainstream comic. When I was doing research for this video, I came across a podcast where Daniel Warren Johnson talked about this issue. The channel is Comic Book couples counseling or something in that nature, where he kind of talked about his influences and why he wrote this comic. And essentially, main driving point at first, or like the person who introduced him to doing the comic, was his art dealer who tried to tell him to do a Batman comic so he could sell pages, which is, is what it is, I guess. Kind of a funny way to make a Batman comic. But in the podcast, he essentially talked about how he didn't want to make just a Batman comic just to sell pages. He wanted to have a reason behind his story. Just like with all of his stories, he doesn't just make stories just for the home run and make a lot of money. He wanted to do it in order to have a message or something in that way. And I think he did that with this comic. I think he did a good job of laying out the things he wanted to say in a real palatable way and entertaining way, which is really important, especially for mainstream comic book fans and stuff like that. I don't want to say he's like done something super duper transformative or crazy, because there have been many other comic artists and cartoonists who have done socially driven, very hard on the nose on these certain topics type of comics. Look at Joe Sacco's Palestine. Look at Art Spiegelman's Mouse. Those comics really open eyes to a lot of people on the realities of the situations that they are talking about in each comic. Again, Bitter Root is another comic that delves a lot more deeper into like white supremacy and the history that's behind a lot of these things, and they weave it really, really well into their comic. So if you haven't read that, I would really, really recommend it. It is a really, really good comic. Sanford Green is a amazing artist. But yeah, man, I appreciate you guys for watching this video to the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Go check out my second channel where I do creator interviews. I do reviews. I talk about other comics, a lot of live streams. Go check out my Patreon. And don't forget, I am a comic book creator myself. Go to my website. You can pick up some copies of my comic. I have AWOL issue number 1 and issue number 2 out right now. I'm almost sold out, so go pick up a copy. And I have some stuff on there you can download for free as well. I appreciate you guys for watching this video. See you guys in the next one. Peace.